Well, we've all been there, right? That point in your life where you're looking for a job, whether it's right out of college or you're making that career jump. And it usually comes with a certain amount of disappointment and also excitement. But what if you have a criminal record? While employers today have indicated they are more willing to hire workers with criminal records, job seekers still face significant barriers to getting work. Mission Launch is a national nonprofit that focuses on helping people with arrest or criminal conviction records find jobs, careers, and other economic opportunities. Today and tomorrow, Mission Launch is teaming up with Prison Entrepreneurship Program and TXRX Labs to host the Bank on 100 Million Houston Hackathon event. And we welcome Teresa Hodge, the co-founder of Mission Launch, as well as Josh Pritchett, the president of Job1Stop. Teresa and Josh, welcome to Hello Houston. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having us. We're
So
really excited to be here.
That is a mouthful.
Yeah.
Bank on 100 Million Houston Hackathon event. What exactly is it?
Well, first of all, 100 million. By the year 2030, 100 million Americans will have an arrest or conviction record.
Wow.
And so what we're saying is it's time to bank on those 100 million people. And so this is the first time that we have brought this event to Houston. We're really super excited about it. A hackathon is, you got to break that big word up into two. We bring in solutions that are designed to help people with arrest or conviction records. We are here focused on jobs, pathways to jobs for the 30,000 people who are released from prisons and jails in Texas alone.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask this so that we understand. The event that's happening is a place where you are spearheading concepts and ideas on how to address this problem, or is there practicality for people who have this situation looking for work?
Both.
So it's a job fair.
It's almost a job fair.
Almost a job fair.
We're bringing some employers in, but employers who are interested in this population. We also bring justice-impacted people into the room so that they can share their lived experience. They're the subject matter experts, and so they get to talk about it. And hopefully, we are bringing these two markets together.
So when you say justice impacted, earlier we were talking a little bit when we were meeting you all. Both you and Josh have been justice impacted. Can you talk to us more about your own story?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll go, Josh. And so I served a 70-month federal prison sentence. I went to prison late in life at the age of 44, 3 days before I turned 45. Happy birthday to me. I got there.
Oh, my gosh.
That's a rough way to go.
Yeah, there you go. Came home when I was closer to 50. And so I took 20 years of really good experience. The company that I co-founded was investigated. I went to trial to defend myself and the company. I lost, and I ended up having to go to prison. And so while I was there, I learned a lot about our prison system, an out-of-sight, out-of-mind institution, and came home and just wanted to really create the solutions that I personally would have needed, but more importantly, the solutions that I knew that the women who I had met also needed.
And Josh, you are with Job1Stop. Why don't you tell us a little about your story and then also what Job1Stop is doing?
Sure. So Teresa and I are basically on two ends of the spectrum. So I came in as a young man, and all throughout my teenage years was in and out of juvenile detention centers, ended up with a 3-year sentence and in Virginia. And I got released when I was about 21 years old. And I did what everybody does. I got to get a job. Right. So I started applying, and mind you, I went in as a younger man, so I wasn't super skilled, didn't have like a resume or anything. And every place I applied for said no. And I'm not saying like banks or higher, skilled place. I mean, the fast food restaurants, the grocery stores, gas stations, everything minimum wage, they all said no, 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 no. And so it wasn't until I got one interview, because I really only got one interview out of all the applications. Ended up at a hardware store, and I worked there for 5 years because I really didn't know what else to do. I didn't have a college education, et cetera. So fast forward, I did do that. I Googled, how do I make more money? Because the hardware store is not
That's
really,
what we all want to do.
Yeah, I want to provide for myself and have a good life. That led me to University of Virginia, getting a finance degree. I ended up, having some experience in New York City with that, and then going to corporate America, and then actually building a real career years later. I mean, we're talking 9 years later after that. And so then I wanted to pivot into this work and do something to help, like Teresa said, people like myself who didn't have these opportunities or even know that these paths existed. And that's how I met Teresa.
It's been a while since I have been in the job market. I'm going to be celebrating 30 years here
Or
next year.
jail. It's been a while for that too.
But as I remember, there was always the question, have you been
Yeah.
convicted of a crime? I may have said federal crime. I can't remember.
Yeah. Felony.
Felony. Is that still allowed to be asked on a job application? And if in fact you do answer that as a yes, that's I'm assuming in most cases automatically you're tossed out of the pile. So how do people move forward? And especially when we're talking about the sheer number of people who have been impacted this way. Where are we at in that? Is there legislation to stop that question? It seems extremely limited.
Why do you think we should stop that question?
Because it doesn't give you any of the nuance of the situation.
And
Sure.
What do you think?
he's 100% right. The legislation is usually called ban the box. And it has been banned across the country, but in a very inefficient way. So who knows what it is in Houston? It may be something different in Dallas, maybe something different in Austin. So all across the country, employers have to figure out what is the right way to do it. What we have found is that most employers, they take the question off of the initial application. And then if they're interested after they've hired you, after they've interviewed you, had a chance to meet you, right before they extend an offer, they ask the question. And then they can run a background check. They can have an opportunity to have a conversation and then determine if the criminal activity or the criminal history is a threat to them today. You know, are you a changed person? Are you, deserving of that second chance? Are you ready for that second chance?
Does it come with a liability? Let's say as an employer you say, okay, I'm going to give this guy a chance. He seems like a good guy. Whatever he did, it's been forgiven. He served his time, all of that. And then there's an incident at work. Am I responsible, or does the law say, no, Frank's not responsible. The guy he hired is still responsible?
Yeah, we've seen is there's not actual kind of substance behind hiring negligence. This concern, obviously it's a concern, but what it ends up being is more of a kind of smoke and mirrors around a reason why to not hire someone.
Stigma.
Yeah, and a lot of this is fear-based, and that's one of the biggest concerns is that, a lot of it is, I think, logical fear. Hey, somebody has a criminal record. Why would I hire them versus somebody else?
And
it's
depending on the
logical.
record, and I think it depends on a lot of things.
So
It's the nuance that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges that people with criminal records or were formerly incarcerated, job seeking, what are they coming across that when they're looking for a job that we may never even think about?
Yeah. It's actually the mere fact that they have a record that keeps them from being able to persist.
Because they hit a wall like Josh
Exactly.
did time after time after time.
Absolutely.
and also even just an arrest record. So I want to clarify that arrest does not mean conviction.
Yeah.
So if you just have that, it can still have the
But
same.
the arrest record stays with you?
It
Yeah.
could. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So most employers run a criminal background check.
Sure.
9 out of 10 employers run a criminal background check. But then once they get it, they don't know how to read it. They don't know how to interpret. Is this serious or not serious? So that's why it's important. We want every employer, if you need to run a criminal background check, we believe, yes, run a criminal background check, but you still have to talk to the person. Yeah. You need some nuance.
Do you teach that at your seminar here, like how to read that? Is that one of the things you teach employers how to do?
We went a step further. One of our we have a for-profit company, R3. It actually provides criminal background reports, but with the nuance. We don't hide the fact that a person has a record, but we give score, which gives context. Is this person risky today, or are they ready?
Yeah.
We're talking a lot about the one aspect of this. I'm curious about flipping that script and what employers miss when they disqualify someone because they have these records. Where are the benefits of someone who may have gone through this process?
Yeah. So what I will tell you is that most employers who hire people with records, a lot of times they don't want to advertise it, but what they will tell you privately is they're some of their best employees.
Our best people.
They're resilient. They stay on the job because, quite frankly, they don't want to go looking for another job.
Good point.
Yeah.
And it's harder.
And they don't want to go back to jail.
Yeah.
So, they're not going to steal from you, hopefully, and they're going to be very crime-free after they've been out.
So, Josh, talk to us a little bit about Job1Stop and what you all are trying to do.
So one of our partners is Eventive, which provides tablets inside of the prisons. And so this is something a lot of people may not realize is there's kind of an iPad, that an incarcerated person can use, and there's a small amount of applications on those.
So your folks are in jail.
Correct.
And Teresa's folks are out of jail.
In transitioning, because obviously at some point. So what we're trying to do at Job1Stop is prepare you with career skills, education, know what these paths are, how to prepare a resume, how to talk about your record, how to navigate the job hunt, and actually find something successful. So on the tablets, you can go and you can see the job board, you can see what's available, and what we're about to actually roll out is a lot of modules on career training, introduction into, hey, if I want to pursue a specific career path, what kind of education might I need, and what paths even exist. There was a recently conversation around these middle skill employment jobs, so jobs that a lot of people don't know exist, don't require college degrees, but require some kind of tech literacy. And so those are jobs you can sometimes make six figures making with these jobs. And so that's what we're trying to expose people to and educate them.
And can you get some of these skills in prison, I guess?
A lot of it is, how do I create the roadmap first? Because if I don't know it exists, I'll never apply myself towards it. And when you look at the population who is incarcerated, typically it's poverty, low education, that kind of background. And that's a background I'm familiar with. So I didn't have family members or people I knew who were doctors or lawyers or things.
Right.
And so if you don't see those things, they're not really that accessible to you.
Right.
And so what we want to start doing is showing people those things and then create the accessibility pathway to get them.
To help put it all into, or were you going to?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, to put everything into perspective for folks to understand. Teresa, I'm curious about post-incarceration unemployment rate in our area. How does that look, those kind of figures?
Yeah, so all across the country, individuals who are incarcerated are usually about 20-30% are unemployed at a higher rate than everyone else. And so reentry is actually what we're talking about, and career exposure is really important. But what I can tell you is that employers are missing out on really good talent, skilled talent. Again, I took good skill sets to prison. People who are in prison, they're learning skill sets that are transferable. When we look at energy, for example, 22 million jobs are expected to be open and unfilled. And what we know is that there are millions of Americans with arrest or conviction records that could fill those jobs.
So this event you're having, is it tomorrow? Tell us more about it. It's tomorrow and where?
And how can people get involved?
Yeah, so we start today at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
At 4 o'clock, we start with level setting and just kind of TED-style talks so that everybody can understand what the problems are. And we start talking about the solutions that we want to create while we're here. We then go into a social hour from like 6 to 8, so it starts at 4, 6 to 8. It's a free event.
Where?
It's at the East End Makers
Maker
Lab.
Hub.
Yeah, and so we're really excited about that. It's a free event thanks to the generous sponsorship of Eventive, our partner here in Texas. And tomorrow we start at 9 a.m. and we go to 4. And we are looking for creating pathways to employment for Houston residents in energy, advanced manufacturing, and in utilities.
Josh, quick question for you as we get toward the end. I'm curious about recidivism rates and the difference we see for folks who can come out of these situations and get employed to those who can't.
Yeah, so recidivism obviously is a topic everybody wants to talk about. It's very difficult to track and manage equally across a lot of states, but you can obviously kind of use some basic logic and say, hey, if somebody has a job, they have an income. If they have an income, they have money, they don't want to lose that. So why commit a crime? Opposite, somebody doesn't have a job, they don't have income, crimes of desperation, period.
Right.
It's a very simple, very basic. So when you actually look at public safety, you say, hey, we want to reduce crime. People don't tend to think we need to increase job opportunities. But that's actually the most fortuitous path to reduce crime is actually give people opportunity, give them something that they don't want to lose. Most human beings are very similar. They want to take care of their family. They want to have something, to eat. They want to have a place to live. That doesn't change. And a lot of times, people who have committed crimes, their reason, again, was just because there was a lack of that. And we look at the population, poverty, low education. It's a very, very basic equation when you look at it that way.
So the rehabilitation can actually come once somebody gets out of prison or jail and gets a job and a life.
Yeah. I mean, that was my story.
Yeah.
Right. So there wasn't a lot of education on, hey, Josh, here's how to do things differently. It was, hey, I just had to build a life kind of by myself. And And I think a lot of people are struggling to do that, but that's the path that a lot of us have to take.
Wow.
Josh Pritchett is the president of Job1Stop, and Teresa Hodge is the co-founder of Mission Launch, which is currently hosting the Bank on 100 Million Houston Hackathon event that's going on right now. Teresa and Josh, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your story.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for having us.
It's great. Very interesting.
Yeah.